Hey, what's up everyone? This is SnackBox. Hope you all have a great start to the week. Guys, the Fusion event calendar has been released and we're gonna do a full breakdown. And I'm also gonna give you my thoughts and my opinion on this champion and how to approach this Fusion. Today's video is sponsored by Marvel Strike Force. Marvel Strike Force is a squad-based RPG where you can assemble an elite team of Marvel heroes and villains to take on legendary foes. Whether you're a longtime Marvel fan or just love strategy games, you'll get to build powerful squads, level up iconic characters, and engage in action-packed battles that feel like they're straight from a blockbuster. You can download the game for free right now using my link in the description or by scanning my QR code. And the best thing is, by using my link, you'll unlock free characters to jumpstart your journey. Don't miss out. Start building your squad today. I've been playing Marvel Strike Force and the gameplay is incredibly satisfying. The animations are top-notch and building the perfect team is a real challenge in the best way. It's so much fun. As a lifelong Marvel fan, I love seeing all these characters come to life. One of my favorites is Deadpool. Not only for his humor, but because he's an absolute powerhouse in combat. The roster is huge, with new characters and events constantly being added, keeping the game fresh and exciting. Now is the perfect time to jump in. Marvel Strike Force is celebrating its 7th anniversary. For a limited time you can use promo code 7 to unlock Nightcrawler and Cyclops for free. These two are key to unlocking Professor Xavier, so don't miss out. Click the link in the description or scan my QR code to download Marvel Strike Force for free today. Build your ultimate Marvel team and join the battle. See you in the game. So let's have a look. So basically the first thing that I always do is checking how many dungeon divers there are in the Fusion event calendar. So there's one right here and another one right there. So that's 2 dungeon divers and we have a hero's path. So that might also be a dungeon divers or something, but it definitely has to do with shards because we have a summon rush right here, and most likely the hero's path is gonna have shards too, as we don't have a champ chase. So this is probably gonna be a champ chase slash champ terrain or dungeon divers. I think it's gonna be champ chase slash dungeon divers because we actually have one champ terrain right here and another one right here, so that's 2. And normally we only have 2 in a Fusion and like 2 to 3 dungeon divers. That's pretty much standard. Then paired with the dungeon divers 1 here, we have the Spider Tournament and the Fire Knight Tournament. So we can actually farm 2 dungeons for 1 dungeon divers here, and then we could farm a dragon for the second one. But unfortunately, the Ice Golem Tournament is not running simultaneously with the Dungeon Divers Event 2. So that is pretty unfortunate because it really costs a lot of energy to complete Dungeon Divers events. Usually the milestones are sitting at like 3,700 points and that will cost you around 5k energy. So both dungeon divers will cost you 5k energy and that will be 10k. Now if the hero's path has another dungeon divers in there, I don't know how much energy you would need to get those fragments, because I don't know where the fragment's gonna sit at. So that's gonna be interesting and it's gonna be a surprise, so we don't know yet, right? So the good thing here for the first dungeon divers is that you can solo the spider with Eric's, for example, get points for the champion training event and for the dungeon divers, so you can basically triple dip with these 3 events right here. And then from the silver you get from here, you know, Spider gives a lot of silver with the accessories. You can basically complete this gear enhancement event too. So it kind of feeds off the Spider tournament, right? For the Fire Knight, there are a couple of, duo teams or now even champions that can solo stage 25. So that would be an option to, triple dip again to get some points for the Fire Knight tournament, the Champ Train event, and the Dungeon Divers event. But honestly, I would highly recommend to farm the hard stages of the Fire Knight, because you want to get your hands on some good gear. I mean, if you can, right, in a reasonable time, if you can farm stage 6 or stage 10 even, I would definitely do that instead of, soloing or duoing the normal stages, because Savage gear is still very useful, and also the other sets are pretty good, so you might want to consider farming the hard stages to get better gear. So I will probably, run Spider solo with Eric's, get points for the Champ Train event, the Dungeon Divers event, and the Spider tournament, and then farm hard stages from the Fire Knight, get points for the Dungeon Divers event, and also maybe, hopefully, get some good gear. And the gear enhancement event is gonna be easy. Classic arena takedowns are the most easiest ones to complete for fusions. And then the summon rush is going to give us another 25 fragments. And most of the time we need like, points equivalent to 6 sacred shards, round about 3,000 points. That's what we need to get those fragments. Now maybe the milestone will sit, a little bit higher. Then the second Dungeon Divers is going to be a little bit unfortunate because it starts when the Fire Knight tournament ends. But either way, I'm going to farm the first 2 dungeon tournaments for the first Dungeon Divers event. So that leaves us only with the Dragon tournament for the Dungeon Divers event number 2. There's, a reasonable amount of champions that can solo the Dragon tournament, so you can again triple dip points here for the Dragon tournament, Champ Train tournament, and the Dungeon Divers event. That is a good thing. And then the gear enhancement event will also be very easy to complete because you're farming the Dragon tournament and getting some silver. You should be able to do those gear enhancement events fairly easy. Also, the fact that we only have 1 dungeon tournament in here during this Dungeon Divers event number 2, you might want to put in more energy into the Dragon tournament and put like, the whole 5k into the Dragon tournament, soloing it, and that way you will get a really good amount of points for the Champ Train tournament as well. Then the last dungeon tournament is going to be the Ice Golem tournament, and most likely there's going to be a Dungeon Divers in this Hero's Path, so you could technically double dip points here, or will anyway, because you want to complete this Ice Golem tournament, right? The Classic Arena Takedown, really easy. Gear enhancement event, like I said, feeds off, the dungeon tournaments. You most likely need like 15 to 20 million silver to complete one of these gear enhancement events. So yeah, assuming that there is a Dungeon Divers in the Hero's Path, we will get points from the Ice Golem tournament. And then it's most likely going to be a champ chase because we have the Summon Rush in the first week. And I don't know how it's gonna look like, how many points we have to get, and that's gonna be like the break point, right? This Hero's Path is going to be the big question mark. Where are the fragments at? How many points do we need? Is it a champ chase / Dungeon Divers? Most likely a champ chase, most likely a Dungeon Divers, but I'm not 100% sure, so it could be something else as well. But you also have the option here to get additional 50 fragments. You can get a total amount of 100 fragments from this Hero's Path, which is quite a lot. That's basically a whole fusion epic, right? So if you are going to open up a lot of shards on this particular weekend for the Hero's Path, I don't know what summoning events we have and so on, so it might be a really good event on that weekend, but also maybe not. So depending on how many shards you got saved up. If you are planning to go for those 100 fragments, you can easily skip other events and tournaments, and in that case, if you go for these 100 fragments, I would definitely skip the summon rush even, and then you could, choose another event or tournament that you wouldn't like to complete, for example, an Ice Golem tournament or something that you don't really have to farm or don't really need to farm. And yeah, so basically we have a total amount of 450 fragments. 4 epic fusions is what we need. Once we get those fragments, we can fuse the epics, and that is actually pretty cool because for the hero's path it's most likely going to be a champ chase tournament, and that way we can actually get a good head start of points. That's just theoretically, right? Because we don't know what the hero's path is actually going to be, but I'm highly anticipating a champ chase / dungeon divers and maybe a third, source of points for this hero's path, but we will see. That's basically the big question mark we have, but in case it's a champ chase, you can prepare those 3 epic fusions. So yeah guys, that's about it for the fusion event calendar. Now I want to talk about the champion itself a little bit. So here you can see the kit right here. I'm pretty sure most of you already seen it, but what I like about this champion is that it's a defense-based champion. That's always good. The damage scales from defense. That's always nice to have because they don't, die that fast. They're not that squishy like attack-based champions. And another thing that I like about this champion is that he has, free debuffs. So that's a good thing. I also saw a couple of testings, from official content creators, and the damage he doesn't seem that bad. Now, is he like an S tier top, champion for endgame players? No, he's not. But always keep in mind, there's always new content coming up. For example, the faction wars, the new hard mode, and this guy might be an answer to whatever challenge there might be. We don't know the conditions of the battles. We don't know if we have to do specific things like place in a hex or something, or ignore ally protections, or maybe they're gonna add life barriers to the bosses. So in my opinion, you should never skip a fusion unless you don't really have the time or resources to, and from the start you can't do it. But if you can, you shouldn't skip a single fusion. In my opinion, that's my approach to fusions, because a lot of them are actually useful now, but at the time when I fused them, they didn't really have a spot. But with Cursed City, for example, and that is a prime example, a lot of those fusion champions are actually coming in pretty clutch. That's kind of like my experience for fusions that weren't really game changing for me, but now with like more content that has been added to the game, they actually found a place where they can perform, and without them I would have a hard time. So that's one thing you always have to keep in mind before you go into fusions and you make your decision if you want to skip or not. There might be future content where you need this champion. Either way, for fusions, you have to do things that you would normally do anyway. Farm dungeons, do champ train, arena, right? Really easy. Enhance your gear, upgrade your gear, cleanse your gear to get more silver. So that's basically all those things that you would have to do anyway to progress. So in my opinion, it's basically a free champion, right? That's how I view fusions, even if they're not account changing for me or game changing for me. So I'm not gonna go through this whole kit and read everything, but basically what he does is, he places decreased speed, weaken, and hex, and he does hit with his A2, which has a chance of repeating when he teams up on an ally attack or when he counterattacks. So that is actually pretty cool. A 20% chance of repeating an attack, and it does hit fairly hard. Also the damage stacks up, right? Like it stacks up to 50% each time a champion gets devoured. So this champion is definitely meant to be a DPS champion for Hydra, also a debuffer, and he ramps up damage, right? Not only stacks his damage up on his A2, he also stacks his defense, right? For each active buff on him, he will get an additional 5% defense, up to 50%, so that's basically 50% more damage. That's very, very nice. And I know a lot of people don't enjoy Hydra anymore. In my opinion, it's less enjoyable for sure. But I'm still working on my teams, I'm still trying to improve my damage, I'm still trying to do the best I can in that content. And I think a lot of players would actually benefit from a champion like this. I think he's really solid for accounts that do not have all these crazy DPS champions. And to be honest, the meta for Hydra is basically either you have a Trunda or you have an ally attack team, right? That's like the best two performing teams out there. Trunda is #1 by far, not even close. But all these other, non-Trunda teams, they all have ally attacks. Mikage, Mad Hatter, Teox, right? All these champions. And he has a synergy with ally attack, so he fits right into that meta. So that is a good thing about this guy. In my opinion, we have seen far worse champions than this. My advice, as always, would be to not skip any fusion. But if you're a player that skips fusion from time to time, I can totally understand that, right? Because it's also a commitment to do fusions and, to do all these tournaments and events. And we just had a crazy fusion, the Fabian, where most players went for it, and he's very good. And now a lot of players kind of like, want to take a break from it. I totally understand that, but I would advise you not to skip this fusion. In my opinion, he's worth the investment, alone for the fact that there's new content coming up and we don't know if we need a kit like that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content and leave a thumbs up while you're at it. And with that being said, see you in the next video.